Hello there, chemistry lovers. So here we are balancing equations again, and this comes from the Fundamental Chemistry 1 textbook. You know, this is the older version of the textbook, the 7th edition, but I'm doing these example questions here. The one I did before was this one, example 410. Now I'm doing example 411, and I just wanted to bring up that I don't know if this is good or bad or what, but for the most part, I leave these states off, especially when I'm balancing equations, just so I won't get confused by all the extra stuff. So whenever you see my equation written down, I don't have gaseous or anything like that. So when I'm balancing equations, the first thing I do is I list what kind of elements I have over on the left side. So I've got CHO, and then I go and write out how many of each element I have. So the subscript 3 here tells me I have 3 carbons, and then the subscript H right here tells me the subscript 8 tells me I have 8 hydrogens, and then the subscript 2 tells me I have 2 oxygens. And then I draw my line that indicates a separation between the reactant side and the product side. And then I do the same thing for the product side. So for carbon, I have an understood 1 here. So I have 1 carbon. For hydrogen, I've got a subscript of 2, so 2 hydrogens. And for oxygen, I have 2 here, and I have an understood 1 here. So 2 plus 1 is 3. So, and it's important that you put the 2 plus 1 because otherwise you'll forget later on that you've got oxygen in 2 places. This is a good reminder that you've got it in 2 places. Or at least that's what worked for me when I was taking the class. Okay, so first off, I think since carbon's first, I'm gonna just start with it. And a little hint for solving these kind of problems, which I hope you recognize as an oxidation or as a combustion. Remember the 5 kinds of reactions? Maybe you don't. But when you have a hydrocarbon, which is a molecule that has just hydrogen and carbon, plus O2, it always yields CO2 and H2O, and it's called combustion. So anyway, with these combustion problems, it's good to balance your C and your H before your O's, because your O's are in 2 different places. So I'm going to reiterate that you don't have to rewrite your equation over and over. It's just I don't have someone to record for me, and it's very difficult for me to look through the camera and write. So that's why I'm doing steps. So all I have to do is explain and move my paper down. Which, let me tack this paper down. Okay, so the first thing I do is I put a 3 in front of the carbon, or in front of the carbon dioxide, because I want there to be 3 carbons on each side. So I do something that's a little bit like the distributive property in algebra, and I say, well, there's an understood 1 here, so 3 times 1 is 3. So I cross out my 1, and I've got 3 carbons apiece. And then 3 times the subscript 2 gives me 6, but it's not just 6, it's 6 plus this 1, so that gives me 7. And we haven't changed hydrogen yet. Okay, so carbon's balanced. Next I'm going to tackle hydrogen. So I'm going to go on, normally you would just start writing on here, but I have my whole recording issue, so I've written it down again. And I'm going to put a 4 in front of here because 4 times 2 will be 8, and then my hydrogens will equal. So I'm going to do a little bit of our distributive property thing like we did in algebra. And so I'm going to say 4 times 2 is 8 hydrogens. So I still had my 3 from before, and now I've got 8 here. And then I've got 4 times the understood 1 is 4 hydrogens, and that's plus my 6 from before. So before I had 6 plus 1, now I've got 6 plus 4, and the 4 came from here. That equals 10. So now I'm balanced on carbon and hydrogen, but not oxygen. So the next step is to put a 5 right here on the reactant side, and then I can say 5 times 2 is 10. So that's what I did in this last step. And I say 5 times 2 is 10. So now I've got 3 carbons on each side, I've got 8 hydrogens on each side, and I have 10 oxygens on each side. And for this one, it comes from 6 plus 4. Okay, so send me more questions, and don't forget that under settings, you can find speed and you can click on it to slow me down. All right.